Unnerving. Very unnerving channeling.
Unnerving. He was frequently bullied at school due to his stutter, short haircut.
His stutter? You got freaking bullied for his stutter?
At one point, another student tied his shoelaces together, causing him to fall face down. Lieutenant Chris Olivares from Texas DPS claimed that Ramos had no friends. Furthermore, he did not have a criminal record or any documented mental health issues. However, he had searched the term sociopath and received an email about possible treatment. He had also previously posted violent threats online. School officials at Uvalde High School withdrew him from the school on October 28, 2021, due to his frequent absences. Ramos's social media acquaintances said he openly abused and killed animals such as cats, and would live stream the abuse on Yubo. Other social media acquaintances said that he would also live stream himself on Yubo, threatening to kidnap and rape girls who used the app, as well as threatening to commit a school shooting. Ramos's account was reported to Yubo, but no action was taken. Up until a month before the shooting, Ramos worked at a local Wendy's and had been employed there for at least a year. According to the store's night manager, he went out of his way to keep to himself. One of his co-workers said he was occasionally rude to his female co-workers, to whom he sent inappropriate text messages, and would intimidate co-workers at his job by asking them, "Do you know who I am?" Ramos's co-workers referred to him by names including school shooter, because he had long hair and frequently wore black clothing. A year before the shooting, Ramos started posting pictures to his Instagram account of semi-automatic rifles that were on his wish list. According to a friend of his, he would often drive around at night with another friend, shooting at strangers with a BB gun and egging cars. According to a man who was in a relationship with Ramos's mother, Ramos moved out of his mother's house and into his grandparents' house 2 months before the shooting, after an argument broke out between him and his mother over her turning off the Wi-Fi. People close to Ramos's family described his mother as a drug user and said he frequently argued with her. 2 months prior to the shooting, he posted a video of himself on Instagram, aggressively arguing with his mother and referring to her as a bitch. Ramos's mother described her son as not a monster, but admitted that he could be aggressive. His grandfather said that his grandson did not have a driver's license and did not know how to drive. According to his father, Ramos had a girlfriend who lived in San Antonio. On May 14th, Ramos sent a private Instagram message reading, 10 more days. A person responded, "Are you going to shoot up a school or something?" He replied, "No, stop asking dumb questions. You'll see." According to the Texas Department of Public Safety, in September 2021, Ramos asked his older sister to buy him a gun, but she refused. On May 17th, 2022, a day after his 18th birthday, he legally purchased a Smith & Wesson semi-automatic rifle from a local.
Crazy how an 18-year-old can just buy that. It's that easy.
Rifle 3 days later. Investigators later found that his gun had a Hellfire trigger device, which decreases the time required for the trigger to reset, increasing the possible rate of fire. Ramos sent an Instagram message to an acquaintance he met through Yubo, which showed the receipt for an AR-15 style rifle purchased from Georgia-based online retailer 8 days before the shooting. He posted a picture of 2 rifles on his Instagram account 3 days before the shooting. Ahead of the shooting, Ramos had purchased 1,657 total rounds of ammunition, which included 375 rounds of 5.56 NATO ammunition purchased on May 18, 2022. On May 24th, 2022, Salvador Ramos and his 66-year-old grandmother had an argument over his failure to graduate from high school at their home in Uvalde, during which he shot her in the foot before taking her black 2008 Ford F-150. She survived and got help from neighbors while police officers were called in. She was then airlifted to a hospital in San Antonio in critical condition. Ramos, using his Facebook account, sent 3 private messages to a 15-year-old girl from Germany whom he had met online prior to the shooting. The first to say that he was going to shoot his grandmother, a second to say that he had shot his grandmother, and a third, about 15 minutes before the shooting, to say that he was going to open fire on them. The girl replied, "Cool." Later, she faced trial in Frankfurt, Germany, and was found guilty of failing to report planned crimes. She was issued a warning and was required to undergo educational measures. A spokesperson for Meta, the parent company of Facebook, said the posts were private one-to text messages discovered after the shooting took place. Ramos crashed his grandmother's truck through a barricade and into a concrete ditch outside Robb Elementary School at 11:28 a.m. and proceeded to scale a fence and enter the school grounds. According to police, he wore a tactical vest for carrying ammunition that did not include ballistic protection or armor insert panels, plus a backpack and all-black clothing, while carrying an AR-15 style rifle and 7 30-round magazines. He brought into the school only one of the 2 rifles that he had legally bought, and left the other in the crashed truck. A witness said he first fired at 2 people at a nearby funeral home, both of whom escaped uninjured. Police reported receiving 911 calls about a vehicle having crashed near the school. After hearing of the 911 call, a school resource officer drove to the school's campus and pursued a teacher whom the officer erroneously believed to be the gunman, driving past the actual gunman in the process. Ramos entered the school through its west-facing entrance door, which had been shut by a teacher who had seen it. The entrance door did not lock despite being designed to be locked when shut. UCISD's police chief estimated that the shooting began at 11:32. According to a Facebook post by the school was placed in lockdown at 11:43 in response to gunshots heard in the vicinity. A report released on July 6th found that an officer had aimed his rifle at Ramos before he entered the school, but did not fire because he was awaiting his supervisor's permission. After entering the building, Ramos walked down 2 short hallways and then entered a classroom that was internally connected to another classroom. All of the fatalities took place in these adjoining classrooms, 111 and 112. A survivor of the shooting said that, as teacher Irma Garcia attempted to lock the door to the classroom, he shot the door's window, then backed Garcia into the classroom and said, "Good night," as he shot and killed her. Another survivor recounted that Ramos said, "You're all going to die," after entering the classroom. He then opened fire on the rest of the students and another teacher in the room. According to a surviving student, Ramos played sad music during the massacre.
Aww.
Most of the shooting occurred inside the building within the first few minutes. Ramos was inside the classroom for over an hour, while armed police remained outside the classroom and building. Multiple students played dead while the shooting took place, including one student, 11-year-old Maya Cirillo, who smeared herself with the blood of one of her dead classmates to give credence to the subterfuge. According to a student who hid in the adjoining classroom, Ramos came in and slightly crouched down saying, "It's time to die," before opening fire.
No.
Afterwards, a responding officer called out, "Yell if you need help." A girl in the adjoining classroom said, "Help!" Ramos heard the girl, entered the classroom, and shot her. A student said that the officer then barged into the classroom, and Ramos fired at the officer, causing more officers to return fire. Arnulfo Reyes, a teacher in classroom 111 who received multiple gunshot wounds, recalled he instructed his students to get under the table and act like you're asleep. Ramos then arrived and shot him before firing indiscriminately around classroom 111. Reyes said he didn't hear talk for a while, but later on, Ramos unleashed a second round of gunfire at students, and Reyes said if he didn't get them the first time, he got them the second time. All 11 students in classroom 111 during the shooting died. Reyes pretended to be unconscious on the floor, but Ramos then shot him again. According to Reyes, he heard law enforcement approach his classroom from what sounded like the hallway 3 times, but they did not enter. During one of these occasions, he heard a student from the adjoining classroom 112 say, "Officer, we're in here, we're in here." As law enforcement had already left, Reyes said Ramos walked over there, and he shot again. Reyes later heard law enforcement telling Ramos to come out of the classroom to talk, saying they did not want to hurt anyone. Separately, Reyes said in past security checks, the classroom 111 door that was meant to be locked during lessons remained unlocked because the latch was stuck, and that he had told the principal about this issue. A male student in classroom 109 said that around 15 minutes after the shooting began, the gunman approached classroom 109's door and pulled its handle, but his teacher had jammed the door after hearing gunfire. The gunman shot through the door's glass window, striking another student and the teacher in classroom 109, then left, with a Texas official stating that the gunman had briefly returned into the hallway after entering classrooms 111 and 112, without specifying what time this occurred. The Washington Post reported that this is likely when those in room 109 were shot at, before the gunman returned to classrooms 111 and 112. Officers arrived 3 minutes after Ramos entered the school and approached rooms 111 and 112, but they retreated after Ramos fired at them. Officers were not successful in establishing negotiations. United States Marshal Service deputies drove nearly 70 miles to the school and arrived at 12:10 p.m., where they helped officers initially confront the shooter, render first aid, and secure the perimeter. At 12:17, UCISD sent out a message on Twitter that there was an active shooter in the elementary school. The school district's police chief, Pedro Arredondo, erroneously determined that the situation had transitioned from an active shooter to a barricaded subject, according to the Texas Department of Public Safety, DPS. With Ramos thought to be contained, officials believed they had bought enough time to bring in tactical units. According to Uvalde County Judge Bill Mitchell, teacher Ava Morales, from inside the adjoining classrooms where the shooter was, called her husband, Ruben Ruiz, a Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District officer, who was outside the school. According to DPS Director Stephen McCraw, during the call, Morales told Ruiz that she had been shot and was dying. When Ruiz tried to move forward into the hallway, he was detained by law enforcement, and they took his gun away from him and escorted him off the scene. Morales eventually died from her gunshot wounds. After the police cordoned off the outside of the school, parents pleaded with officers to enter the building. When they did not, parents offered to enter the building themselves. Officers held back and tackled parents who tried to enter the school, further warning that they would use tasers if the parents did not comply with directions. Video clips of these interactions were uploaded to social media, including one that depicted a parent being pinned to the ground. Police pepper sprayed a parent trying to get to their child, and an officer tackled the father of another student. Police reportedly used a taser on a parent who approached the bus to get their child. A mother of 2 students at the school was placed in handcuffs by officers for attempting to enter the school. When released from the handcuffs, she jumped the fence and retrieved her children, exiting before police entered. A video clip showed parents questioning why police were not trying to save their children, to which an officer replies, "Because I'm having to deal with you." A United States Border Patrol Tactical Unit, or TAC agent, rushed to the scene after receiving a text message from his wife, who was a teacher there. Prior to this, the agent had been off duty. The agent immediately set out with a shotgun his barber had lent him, and arrived on the scene approximately an hour after the first responders arrived. He then proceeded to help evacuate children. Contrary to online rumors and social media posts, he did not enter the school or kill the shooter. Additional VORTAC agents arrived, but they did not have a battering ram or other breaching tools, so a U.S. Marshal on the scene provided agents with a ballistic shield. Ramos stayed in the classroom for around 1 hour, hiding behind a steel door that officers said they could not open until they obtained a master key from the janitor. However, there is evidence that the door was never
What?
opened. After the door was opened,
Holy shit. True, that's inside the man, right?
the shield, followed by 2 other VORTAC
It's called master key because they use it to break doors?
trauma, and restoration, and at least 1 sheriff's deputy. Ramos reportedly opened fire at the group from a closet in the room before officials returned fire and killed him. In an interview by the Texas Tribune published on June 9, 2022, Uvalde School District Police Chief at the time, Pedro Pete Arredondo, said he arrived at the school thinking he was the first law enforcement officer on the scene. He claimed he abandoned his police and campus radios because he wanted his hands free to shoot the gunman, and stated he also thought the radios would slow him down. He said one radio's antenna would hit him when he ran, while the other radio was prone to falling off his belt when he ran, and that he knew from experience that the radios did not work in some school buildings. Arredondo said he was unaware of 911 calls being made from the classrooms the gunman was in, because he did not have a radio, and no one told him. The other officers in the school hallway were not in radio communication either. In the Texas Tribune interview, Arredondo said that he did not consider himself as the incident commander for law enforcement. Instead, his role was the frontline responder, with him assuming someone else was in the field. The National Incident Management System, which guides all levels of government on how to respond to mass emergency events, says that the first person on scene is the incident commander. DPS officials have described Arredondo as the incident commander, and identified him as giving the order to treat the situation as a barricaded subject. Arredondo said that he attempted to open the door to classroom 111, while a Uvalde Police Department officer tried the door to classroom 112, but both were locked. According to Arredondo, the classroom door had a steel jam that prevented law enforcement from easily breaching it. Later reporting indicated these doors were not in fact locked. Arredondo was aware the gunman was firing from within the classroom, and that some shots had grazed police officers. According to Arredondo, he and the officers in the school hallway did their best to remain quiet, only whispering to each other, fearing that if the gunman heard them, he would shoot at them. He spent over an hour in the hallway, of which he held back from the classroom doors for 40 minutes to avoid attracting gunfire. Arredondo said that during the wait for door-breaching tools, he tried to talk to the gunman through the walls to establish rapport, but got no response. Also in the Texas Tribune interview, Arredondo said he was provided with 6 keys, which he tried on a door adjacent to the room where the gunman was, but none opened that door. He stated he later received another 30 keys, which also did not work, and that eventually, other officers called his cell phone to inform him they had obtained a suitable key. Arredondo denied cowardice and incompetence, stating that law enforcement's objective was to save as many lives as we could, and the extraction of the students from the classrooms by all that were involved saved over 500 of our Uvalde students and teachers before we gained access to the shooter and eliminated the threat.